So in the modern era, we're always trying to improve technology. And one of the ways we're looking to do that in this upcoming era is the self-driving cars. And that's going to solve a lot of problems for us. One of the problems being that there's a statistic that says 90% of crashes on the road today are caused by driver error. And that's something that we really want to improve. So there's three things that I want to talk about self-driving cars today. The first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to tell you how they work. The second thing I want to talk about is I'm going to tell you where they stand legally in our society. And the third thing is how they're going to benefit you, because that's the most important thing. So getting to my first topic, the first thing I want to talk about is how they work. So inside the car, the first thing you need to know is that it has a central computer that essentially controls everything. It's almost like a GPS, first of all. You put in your coordinates, you tell it where you want to go. It knows speed limits, it knows traffic signs, it knows lanes, it knows all that. The second part of the technology that goes into it, it involves radar and it involves video. And on the top, it has the video sensors, and all around the sides of the car, it usually has radar sensors, or which uses technology called LiDAR. And what LiDAR is, it detects pigmentation, and it reflects it back to the car, and it lets you know like where the objects are in relation to where the car is. So it knows, okay, I can safely go this way, or I can safely go this way, or there's something in front of me, it better stop. Because usually in autonomous vehicles, you don't have any control of the car. So the third part of the technology is there's also ultrasonic sensors that it uses that are in the tires. And what these do is, when you're parking the car, of course, it can detect the curb, it can detect the cars on either side of you. And it just makes it for a smooth process, you don't just stop in the middle of the street. You gotta park, and then you gotta get out. So that's how the technology works. So moving on to the second topic, now that I've talked about the technology, I want to talk about where it stands legally in the framework that we have today. There's not a lot within our legal framework that says you can't have self-driving cars, which is probably why a lot of people are testing it right now. Most of the laws that we have are talking about cars that are driven by people. We don't have a law saying you can't have a self-driving car. So a lot of people are testing that right now. There has been one major liability situation where we're trying to determine who's going to be responsible if this vehicle were to get into an accident somehow. There are vehicles that are fully autonomous, which means that the driver has no input at all. There's usually like no steering wheel, no brake pedals, no nothing. So the driver can't do anything to stop the car. And it's all based on what the company did. So in that case, they've said, hey, the manufacturer will take credit for this. This is our situation. Now there's some that are semi-autonomous, which means it may have a way for the driver to influence it should the mechanisms go wrong. So in that case, they're saying, maybe we should make the driver somewhat liable for this. So that's kind of a situation they're working on. It's really only one of the main problems they've had. Other than that, it's been pretty straightforward. And the last thing is, there's not really a universal set of laws for these. Like, first of all, they're not in the law much at all, and every state has their own set of laws for cars. So in the future, we're going to have to try and find a way to make these things all uniform and make it so that we all have the same regulations on what these are allowed to do and what they're going to be. So the last thing that I want to talk about is what benefits this can bring to you. Because this is a good thing. Like, we want this, right? Why do we want it? Well, there's a few social benefits. One, you don't have to worry about the stress of driving. That's something. You don't have to worry about the people next to you. No, you're just going to be sitting probably in the passenger seat. You're just going to be driving along in your car, not worrying about the world or anything. Second, there's going to be a few economic benefits. First, we're speculating that you may not have to pay for insurance premiums anymore, because if they take full liability for the car, then you're no longer responsible for it, which goes back to an issue I was talking about earlier. But if you're not responsible for it, you don't have to pay for anything. And then the last thing is, it's environmentally friendly. Like we're saying, these might not run on gas anymore, these might run on more electrical, might run on solar panels, so that takes away some of the emissions problem. They're speculating that there's going to be less cars on the road in total because it's going to become more of, you don't need to own a car because you can just have it come pick you up and take you where you want to go, and then it can be used over and over for different people for the day. So then that's going to reduce, it's also going to reduce traffic congestion, so you'll get to your destination faster, which is good for your time management. And then you're also going to be putting out less emissions, like I said before. So that's pretty much the three things that I wanted to talk about today. So I talked about how the technology in the cars work. I talked about how they fit into our framework legally, and I talked about how they will benefit you in the future. And if we were to get these implemented on a large scale and potentially get them to everywhere around the world, we could eventually see that 90% of people that are like in accidents caused by driver error, we could see that drop down to almost non-existent. Thank you.